seminar room. And believe me, to my surprise, that Chinese guy, a gentleman, came out. Actually, there were 2 or 3 of us who had equal curiosity to find out what is happening. How come suddenly the vacancies have been filled? That gentleman, that Chinese gentleman, he came out and asked us, "Oh, guys, I believe that you all are waiting for more than 4 hours. Since you have come inside to my seminar room, why don't you give me your resume so that I can take a look?" So we gave our resume to him. He went through our biodata. Then what he said, no, even though my interview schedule is over, why don't you come in the evening after 6 p.m. and then let me try to talk to you guys. So friends, I had faith. I loitered around the Windsor Manor, came back to the hotel at 6 p.m., went through the interview process, and I was selected. I was selected for a position in Singapore. However, the challenging time was not over. My visa, for rest of the people, it took only 15 days. However, for me, it took 6 months to process. And I was still having my hope and waiting for it. My friends used to ask me, how come you can have so much of patience? What is keeping you going? I told them, it is the faith. The faith that I have is kept me going. Then they asked me a further probing question. What is that faith? Then I say, for many people, faith can be different thing. For me, faith is in God, the God I trust. So I told him, dear friends, the God I trust is making things happen. He is not making my life easy. But at the end of the day, he makes sure that things happen. I get the results what I want. My dear friends, with that kind of message, I say a big thank you. And I encourage you all to have a faith in the God or in the religion or in the superpower or in the energy or in the concept of anything. Then you put your effort, go for it, put your hard work, then execute all the plans. And I am sure that faith, that superpower will ensure that you are all the way to the success. With that, I thank you again and welcome you all for this great session. Before we continue with our actual session, since we have many guests, I would leave to introduce distinguished Toastmaster Gavin Makeley to the last. But before that, our normal guests, I would request maybe starting from the screen where I can see, we have already a Kamlakar, our area director, is already well known to us. I don't think we need to introduce him. Welcome, Dr. Kamlakar. Maybe next I can see who else? Galaxy J6. Maybe you can introduce you, Dantika. Also, I request each one of you to turn on your screen and introduce your name. What are you doing? And who introduced you to this club? With these 3 simple things. I request everyone to turn on your cameras so that we can see you. You are very beautiful and handsome. Okay. The first one I see is Bhavitran. Please go ahead and introduce yourself. Yes, Adibal.
Yeah, good evening. I am from Sri Lanka, from Bangalore Toastmasters Club. It's coming at this 82. I'm currently a mechanical engineer studying in the second year. I got to know about this meeting, your club meeting, through the WhatsApp group Toastmaster other club infos. So today, you are having an educational session. So I wanted to get knowledge from that. I wanted to share with my club members. That's why I joined. Thank you so much, President.
Welcome. Next, moving into next person, Yudantika.
Yes, so am I audible?
Yes, go ahead.
Hello everyone. My name is Sudantika. I'm studying in grade 10th. I'm from St. Anthony's Public School, Hubli, Karnataka.
Great. Welcome. Then
Yes.
Soumya. Or maybe Galaxy J6. Unmute. You are not audible. You are not audible. Maybe while he sets audio, we move to see. Let's do this quickly, friends. We have shortage of time. You don't have to wait for me to announce. You can straight away come and start introducing yourself.
Hello, good evening, everybody. My name is Steve. I'm from Punjab, and I am pursuing my BA from Khalsa College, Chandigarh.
Excellent. Welcome. Welcome to DET. Who else next?
Thank you, sir.
Another admission.
Hello.
Hello. Yep.
Hello. Hi, my name is Deepika. I'm from
Okay.
Goa. I'm a fashion designer, and Priyanka Ramchandani got me introduced to Toastmasters a few days ago.
Welcome, Deepika.
Thank you.
Okay. Am I missing anybody else? Rajat Shah. Yeah, Rajat Shah is our own member. Okay. 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 So I think I will not take much of the time. I welcome all the guests again, once again. Very warm welcome to our very own online meeting. Today we have two parts. The first part is the prepared speech, table topic and evaluation. And second, roughly around 7 p.m., we'll be having the most awaited education session from distinguished Toastmasters, Kevin. So one request I will be having before I hand it over to the Toastmaster of the day. If you are not speaking, mute your audio, and you are always welcome to turn on your video. If you have any network problem, switch it off. Otherwise, you have to keep the video or the camera on. Okay. Now, my dear friends, we are moving into the next segment of the meeting. For this, I need to introduce this person. This person is very friendly. Not only friendly, she is a physiotherapist. And see the combination. She is a physiotherapist and she is a foodie. She likes to eat all kinds of foods. And much more than that, I am also happy to announce that she is becoming one of the great anchors of our club. My dear friends, she is none other than Toastmaster Priyanka. Please give a round of applause and a big grin and welcome today's Toastmaster of the day, Priyanka Ramchandani. Over to you, Priyanka.
Thank you to our dynamic Toastmaster President Sidhu. Thank you so much. Good evening, Toastmasters and guests. Well, today, my goal is to make this meeting indelible. And that's why the twist in my role is that today I am the dhol master or the drum master of the day. So this drum, why you wonder? It's because this will be offered as a gesture of respect to whosoever I will be introducing today. An indelible English teacher who sensed the need of training people with regards to public speaking and effective leadership. Yes, Dr. Ralph Smedley organized unofficial meetings for his friends and colleagues since 1907. It took him 17 long years to make it possible to stamp this club as an official, independent, non-profit organization on 22nd October 1924. Each day of those 17 years, I'm sure he must have faced several rejections, disagreements, and challenges. But one thing's for sure too, that there was something that kept him going. And today we are eating the fruits of the seeds that he had sown. Here's my gesture. But how did Toastmasters emerge in India? Have you ever thought? Well, in India, the Speakers Forum changed its name first as the Indian Club Speakers in 1991, and then this club was renamed as the Indian Club Toastmasters in 2002. Today, India has over 320 clubs spread across 47 cities. But who played the role of Sir Ralph Smedley in Hubli? We all know the answer, don't we? A Toastmaster in Delhi since 2002, who became a part of the Bangalore Toastmasters Club in 2006. In 2014, when he came back from Singapore and began teaching in the Deshpande Foundations to the Deshpande Foundation students, he felt the need of having such a wonderful Toastmasters club in Hubli. Yes, you are right. He is none other than the indelible Toastmaster Veer Narayan Kulkarni. In the first term, it was a smooth ride for him, he said. But after 6 months, difficulties knocked his door, and this baby Toastmasters club was fighting for its survival. But God sends angels, doesn't he? Tapped on the shoulders of Toastmaster Veer Narayan came Toastmaster Sanjay Kulkarni and Toastmaster Manjunath. Sure, it was not easy, dear Toastmasters, but faith that they had, that glued them together, their determination and the will to have such a wonderful club has led us all to be a part of this wonderful 273rd meeting, having a distinguished Toastmaster from England, Sir Gavin Mackley, amongst us. A sign of respect, a gesture of respect for all of them, here I present. I quickly move on to explaining to you all for the benefit of the guests how our meeting is structured. So our meeting is divided into 3 segments, which consist of prepared speeches, where speakers work day in and out and write speeches and rehearse, and with their mentors, they come up and present wonderful speeches to us. The second segment, which gives us a lot of butterflies in our stomach, is the table topic session, wherein guests also have the benefit of participating with us. In the third segment, which is the most crucial segment, we have the evaluation, which is led by a leader called the general evaluator, and he has monitors for our group, which is called the tag team, that is the timer, our counter, and the grammarian. Without further ado, let's move ahead. Our general evaluator for today, who is he? He passed out as a management graduate. Unsure about what will he do in life, he faced multiple rejections and joined an insurance company. But his passion was to educate. With a lot of faith deep within, he started a commerce graduate. Mark my words, a commerce graduate started an engineering training program for design courses, and that's when he learned that he believes that faith is something beyond logic, and that's how he started his Toastmasters journey. Dear Toastmasters, today we recognize him as a distinguished Toastmaster. I welcome and hand over the screen to our distinguished Toastmaster, Toastmaster Manish Jain.
Manish, you are not audible, and also your camera is not on. Toastmaster Manish. We are having it's raining heavily here. Maybe because of that. Yeah, he's connecting. Manish.
Toastmaster Sidhu, by the time Toastmaster Manish joins, we can ask the tag team to introduce themselves.
Correct, correct. So today's timer, can you please introduce your role?
Yes, good evening, Toastmasters and guests. I'm the timer for today. So I'll be showing the 3 cards: green card for the minimum time, yellow card for the midway, and then red card for the when the time limit is over.
Thank you, Toastmaster Priya. Now I request today's counter to explain the role. Toastmaster Pramod.
Yes, great good evening to all the Toastmasters. Is I audible? Yeah. Is I audible, right?
Yes, Pramod, go ahead.
Yeah, okay. As a communication expert believes, good communication is just as stimulating as black coffee. It's very hard to sleep after. So with this, to attain such proficiency, with the counter will evaluate you in a one way. So that's I will be noting down the pillar words and sounds used by all the speakers. The words like but, so, and etc. and sounds like etc. At the end of the general evaluator ask us to submit the report, and we will I will submit the report. Over to you, sir.
Who is the grammarian?
The grammarian Toastmaster Afaq, you can go ahead.
Yeah. Good evening, Toastmasters and guests. I am Toastmaster Afaq Khan, your grammarian for today's meeting. As a grammarian, I shall keep the note of all the good usages of the language, better phrases and words. I shall recommend if there are any corrections at the end of the meeting when called by the general evaluator. And as a grammarian, I introduce the word of the day too. Today's word of the day is delible. Delible, an adjective, means not able to be forgotten or making marks those cannot be removed. Example sentences are: the pandemic of 2019 left an indelible mark on on business and people from all walks of life. After the compassion the people have shown to others during these difficult times, they will always have indelible place in our heart. Thank you, General Evaluator.
Thank you, Toastmaster Afaq. Am I audible now?
Yes.
Am I audible, Afaq? Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. Thank you, Sidhu, for helping me out. In the meantime, I had the faith that my mobile camera and mic is working as usual, but actually didn't today. So I had to again log in from my phone. So we have introduced the timer, our counter, as well as the grammar introduced the word of the day. Now we again back to Toastmaster of the day to start today's session with the speaker number 1. Back to you, Priyanka.
Thank you, General Evaluator, distinguished Toastmaster Manish, sir. Well, we quickly move on to the first segment of our meeting, which is the prepared speeches. Our first speaker, if I have to tell something about him, I'm sure this will help you connect with the theme of today. When the financial world was in turmoil in 2014, he mustered the courage to quit and have a startup. He quickly got in touch with the local farmers and he helped increase local economy. Not just this, he went ahead to win the Best Startup Company Awards in 2015, 2016, 2017 by the TIE, and 2018 in Karnataka. I'm sure his faith within him made him act. And let us all welcome and put our hands together for Toastmaster Rohan Kulkarni.
The evaluator, I think.
Yeah.
Evaluator is objective. Yeah.
So I'm the evaluator for today's first speaker, Toastmaster Rohan. Toastmaster Rohan is giving his second speech from level 1. The purpose of his project is for the member to present a speech on any topic, receive feedback, and apply the feedback for his second speech. Over to you, TMOD.
Just a moment.
I'm sorry for having not asking the evaluator. We can thank you so much, Toastmaster Rajat. We now move ahead and invite Toastmaster Rohan Kulkarni to deliver his speech. Thank you.
Schooling does not assure employment, but skills does. Good evening, Toastmasters and distinguished guests. Every one of us have spent life in schooling, but at the end of the years of schooling, after graduation, we are left with not many jobs. Again, we still struggle to get the jobs. So with the current pandemic, everyone is talking about how do I start my own business? How do I start my own startup? Startup is one of a crazy word today which is flowing around. What exactly is a startup? What is the journey of an entrepreneurship? As TMOD introduced me, I quit a high-paying job to get into the entrepreneurship world. That was the thing, and I want to share what exactly I went through, which could help many people. It's better to be late than never. I always wanted to be an entrepreneur, but I always started procrastinating it and putting it forward next year, next year, next year. But the turmoil in the financial industry brought me to decisive and made me leave the job and start this startup known as Freshbox. First thing, if you want to start up, you have to believe it before you see it. You never know, it can be successful or it might not, but still you have to believe in it to make it successful. So I have my own acronym which I have crafted. In that, the story. What is the story behind? I, coming from a financial background, I saw that the story, one of the main impact which caused was I was asked to cut down my team size from 320 to 160 overnight. They said the markets are worse, we cannot continue the full strength, so you have to cut down. Dear fellow Toastmasters, it takes hard time to hire people, train them and make them work. But when you ask to cut down, it really hurts a lot. The same thing which I had seen in 2008 too. So this was the second time which was happening to me. And that made me think about it and choose a segment which is non-recession affected. The first and foremost industry came into my mind was education, food, healthcare. These are the three segments which are not affected by the recessions. So I built like what is the best thing which can be done in Hubli. Hubli didn't have an e-commerce of vegetables and fruits. So I came up with the e-commerce of vegetables, fruits story. So if you want to start up at any given point of time, you should have a story. The story powerful enough to drive you further. The second thing, think big. Startup T stands for think big. Toastmasters, one thing which I always believed was this is a small industry. Vegetables and fruits industry was small compared to many other healthcare or education. But I thought I can make a big impact. And that was the reason in the first year, we could clock 1.67 crore turnover in the vegetables and food space in e-commerce in Hubli. So if you want to have a startup, always think big. The third thing, the startup should give you or your customers an attitude. When I mean attitude, not in a negative way, it is in a positive way. Whenever somebody comes to your house and there's a delivery from Freshbox, they should feel proud. Yeah, I have ordered vegetables and fruits from Freshbox. I am consuming fruits and vegetables from Freshbox. So that gives an attitude to you in front of your friends, relatives, for the consumer. So similarly, any startup should build that attitude in the minds of the people. So that should be the motive. Third thing, it should be rational or realistic. I have seen many startups, many people coming to me and they approach me with the different ideas. But the idea could be hypothetical on the paper, but it might not be realistic when you execute that. So for a startup, the idea should be realistic. And another important aspect is you should focus on the niche market. We cannot satisfy every segment. Like iPhone is focusing on a customer who wants to buy phone above 25 to 30,000 rupees only. He will not look into a customer who wants to buy a 5 to 10,000 rupees phone. Similarly, when you start a startup or your idea, you should focus on some targeted niche customers who will be your direct consumer, who will buy from you. So that is a very, very important aspect, because unless you are targeting a specific customer segment, you cannot be successful. Very important part in startup, to rise up in the startup journey, you should have a unique selling proposition. Your product should have a USP. Anything, let it be a product, let it be a service, let it be any business. USP of Freshbox was delivery in 90 minutes. The moment you order, we delivered in 90 minutes. That was the unique proposition. Like Domino's has 30 minutes or free. Similarly, we did 90 minutes because we knew like procuring was a tough chance. So that is the reason we had a unique proposition. So which made us stand out in the market and which made us a household brand name. Last but not the least, if all the worlds are filled, but you are not passionate, you are not persistent about your startup, fellow Toastmasters, it is really difficult. Passionate is something like hook or crook, you have to finish it. At the end of the day, you won't get a peaceful night without you completing the work done. So this draws me, like, if anybody is willing to traverse the journey of entrepreneurship, it is utmost important to focus on all these points and build your startup in the future. If anybody is interested, I can even help them or mentor them to take up the startup journey too. Thank you. Over to you, TMOD.
Thank you, Toastmaster Rohan. Your speech was really very powerful. You must first believe in it to see it. Wow, thank you so much. Moving ahead, before introducing this second speaker, I would request the evaluator of the second speaker, Toastmaster Manish Jain, to kindly read out the objective.
Thank you, Toastmaster Priyanka. A second speaker for today is pursuing the path dynamic leadership and is in level 4, project number 1. The speech is about managing change, and speech title is Shape Up or Ship Out. I repeat, Shape Up or Ship Out. And the speech objectives are: the purpose of this project is for the member to practice developing a change management plan. The purpose of this speech is for the member to share some aspect of a change management plan. Back to you, Toastmaster of the day.
Thank you, Toastmaster Manish. Dear Toastmasters, who are the figures of God on land? Yes, you guessed it right. They are doctors. Our next speaker is not just a great urologist, he is one of the most humble human beings that I have interacted with. And sure, he is indelible. The mantra of his life is do not focus on the results, but be very conscious of your own efforts and have faith in your heart. His faith is clearly visible to all of us, from him being a well-known doctor to creating a new Toastmasters club in Belgaum. Not just this, he has also conducted an area level contest for the first time in North Karnataka. With all of this, he is also our area director. I welcome Toastmaster Achrekar sir.
Yeah, you can all see my screen. Hello? Hello, am I audible?
Yes, you are audible and you can see your screen.
We can see your
Yeah,
screen.
okay. Right. Today it is a changing world. We need to change with the time. Otherwise, the time will change us. Toastmaster of the day and fellow Toastmasters. That was the fag end of the millennium. As the pioneer urologist of North Karnataka, I was contented, or you can say complacent, with my surgical skills, despite some changing scenarios that were emerging in my profession. The old technique of removing the kidney stone by open surgery was getting replaced by a new technique called PCNL without cutting open the body. And this technique was gaining popularity. Although a sizable number of kidney stones were operated in my practice by the conventional open surgery, the fear of failure and the probable complications of the new technique kept me away from venturing into this new change. You know, change is always a challenge, and you cannot spell challenge without the change. As this new procedure withstood the test of time, becoming the part of urological armamentarium, the patient's demand for the same was becoming palpable. So I was left with no choice but to equip myself to manage this inevitable change as a challenge. I was reminded of the quote by Joshua Merritt: challenges are what make the life interesting, and overcoming them is what makes the life meaningful. So I formulated a 4-letter blueprint to confront and manage the change. They are perceive, plan, prepare, and perform. I had realized and convinced that change is inevitable and is the rule of life. And I had a faith in me. And I conveyed the same perception to my staff and subordinates who were the part of my team. In my planning, I started recognizing the obstacles for the change. They are the mindset. Quite often, people refuse to accept and adopt the change. But fortunately, I was not so rigid. It was easy for my subordinates to follow me. Ignorance is a darkness and is a deterrent to the progress, and obviously is afraid of the change. The comfort zone, it is quite natural for every one of us to remain in a comfort zone, do not accept any challenges. But if you ask me, the comfort zone is a comatose zone where you cannot expect any productivity. Well, whether you want to buy a new product or bring in a change, the financial foothold also gains importance. So I made the necessary financial arrangements to manage the change. The third step is the preparation that started the training, but training of myself. I had both visual training as well as hands-on training by attending some of the centers where this new technique was being performed. Then I came back and developed a communication plan and training of my subordinates and staff nurses who are the part of my team. The fourth is the perform is the real punch, which started with the implementation. I started performing the procedures by taking simple cases under the supervision of my expert friends. The insistence is the one which helped me to overcome the inadequacies. And over a period of time, I improving, which guided me toward the mastery. So overall, my team accepted, adopted, and accomplished the change rather than remaining complacent. Now we are all geared up to manage the change. I'm happy to inform the number of patients who have been benefited by this new technique have already crossed 100. The lesson what we learned from this is the life gives us only one choice between the two, either shape up or ship out. And with this, I came out with my own quote, which said, change is the rule of life, but putting the change into action is the art of life. Over to the Toastmaster of the day.
Thank you, Toastmaster Shekhar sir. Challenges are something that make life interesting. Wow. Your constant urge of growing as a learner and your determination was clearly reflected in your speech. Thank you so much. Now, we finished with our first segment. Let us all move to the next segment. Is anybody out there sweating already? Well, before that, we have our table topics master who would like to carry over this session. Before that, our table topic master, let me tell you, once had a task of writing 2,000 lines of code which seemed impossible to her. But the faith in herself led her to the completion of her project and made her happier. She also believes that in these times where we are facing this pandemic and we are together, all of us need to have faith and of positivity and goodness, which will for sure get us out of it together. I welcome our table topics master of the day, Toastmaster Pooja.
Thank you, Toastmaster Priyanka. And I also have a faith that all of you will participate today in this Toastmaster table topic session. So table topics is nothing but impromptu speaking. I would be giving you a topic on the spot, and you have to talk for 1 to 2 minutes. That is minimum of 1 minute and maximum of 2 minutes. So let us begin with today's table topic session. First, Toastmaster Saurabh.
Yes, I'm here.
Your topic is, would you rather have more time or have more money? Over to you, Toastmaster Saurabh.
Would you rather have more time or more money? Topics master, all the Toastmasters present here, and my distinguished guests. Well, if there are two cases over here, either I should go with the time or I should go with the money. Well, definitely it all matters on the mindset. If I'm a person who is having more time, then definitely I would love to go with the money. But if I'm a person who is having more of money, then I would definitely go off with the time. Let me give you an example. Suppose, as of now, I'm just 19 years old. And right now, I have enough time. For example, in this pandemic, I have enough time to do whatever I want to do. I have a lot of, I'm doing a lot of things. So I'm getting more time. But what I don't have is money. For right now, I'm a student. I should always go to my dad and ask money for him. But the same case would be reversed if I was somewhere around 80 years old. There, I always have a, I always have my pocket full of money, where I would be having a lot of money. I can buy whatever I want. I can spend it wherever I want to. But the thing which I'll be missing out there is the time, because the love I would be getting from my family over there, I'll always be trying to miss it. So it all depends on the scenario where if you want to have a money, then you cannot have time. If you want to have time, if you can't have the money. Back to you, David.
Thank you, Toastmaster Saurabh. That was great.
Sorry to interrupt you, Toastmaster Pooja. We have a guest who is with me who would love to take up a topic. Whenever there's a slot, please allow him.
Sure. So next, I would like to call Toastmaster Mutturaj.
Yes, I'm in.
Your topic is, would you rather keep traveling the whole world and explore, or stay at home with loved ones?
Good evening, Toastmasters and guests. 4 hours work week. The book itself says, roam the entire world and earn money during the course of your traveling. I have changed my style of business in this lockdown. I have changed my style of business from physical to digital. Definitely, this is the suitable topic for me. I always used to take the classes for 12 years in a traditional way, that is going to class morning at 8 o'clock, working there for hours and hours, and come back and be at house. Now, the pandemic, this disease of COVID-19 has taught a new lesson for me, going online. So this is the best way that I can do the business, by being anywhere in the world. I can travel anywhere in the world and still have my business. So as the table topic master has given, I would definitely go for the place where traveling the world besides doing the business. I would always suggest the all young entrepreneur who want to bring up their business, please try something which you can do online, and definitely you can multiple your business. Besides, you can travel the entire world and study, know the culture of different countries, know the culture of different cities, know the culture of different business, and definitely one day we can also go and meet our guest DTM Meckley physically at his place. Thank you. Over to you, table topic master.
Thank you, Toastmaster Mutturaj. Toastmaster Priyanka, would you like? Yeah.
Very good evening, Toastmaster. This is Prakash Ramchandani. I'm an entrepreneur.
Yes, good evening, guest. So your topic for today is, would you rather be the funniest person in the room or the most intelligent?
I would take the topic that I would be a funniest person in the room. The timer, I'll start now. Thank you. If we see the world, if I ask everybody, I don't want to reply, but I just want to ask everybody that there are many of the stress levels in this world, in everybody's mind and everybody's thought. So I would break up this stress level for myself, and if I am there in the room, or if I'm in some of the meeting, or if I'm in some of the party, I would like to break this stress level which is going on in everybody's mind, and rather be out of my way and be funny and make people laugh, because I think so in the course of in this time, in this period, the laugh, the smile is disappearing from everybody's face. And I think so everybody is finding out, if you ask anybody in the world, they will say that I want peace, I want joyfulness, I want a smile on my face, and I want to laugh. So I would prefer to be in the room and make people laugh, because life is too short. And if you make somebody laugh, it has been added into your karmas. So I would be funny enough, and whatever my age is, if I am 70-year-old or 80-year-old also in future, I would like to leave my age in the side. That is only the number, and I will make my child wake up in my mind and make people laugh and see the smile, a beautiful smile on everybody's face. And that is what I would like to be. And thank you so much for that. Thank you so much. I end my things. Thank you, Toastmasters. Thank you.
Thank you. That was great. Last one. Would anyone like to volunteer?
Can I? My name is Prasad. I'm from ME4U Entrepreneurs Toastmasters Club.
Yes. Toastmaster Prasad, this is your...
So there's only one left, is it?
Yeah, last
Yeah,
one.
okay.
Would you rather read people's mind or fly high in the sky?
Okay. Can I start?
Yeah, sure.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you so much for the topic. I would rather fly high in the sky, because reading people's mind, I don't know how that would turn out for me. But flying high is something I think we all dreamt of. And if I ever get a chance to fly high in the sky, I'd rather go somewhere far away and look far away from the earth, look how the earth looks from, see how the earth looks from the sky, the outer space, probably also visit many of the places I have always wanted to travel to Florence in Italy to see the Renaissance art, and I would probably do that. And also travel all the world, I guess. I mean, flying high, I can fly anywhere. So reading people's mind, I don't know how that would turn out. So I'd rather choose flying high in the sky, and that's all I can talk about this. Yeah, thank you.
Thank you, everyone. Back to you, Toastmaster Priyanka.
We now move ahead to the evaluation segment of our meeting. I call upon Toastmaster Manish to carry forward this segment.
Thank you, drummer queen, Toastmaster of the day, Priyanka. From a mango master to a drummer queen. So each role you take, you keep getting new names to your ad. So we shall start with our evaluation. For the first speech, Rohan from ME4U Toastmasters Club. Evaluator is Rajat. Rajat, can I have
Toastmaster
evaluation?
Manish, a kind request.
Yeah.
Today we are running short of time because we had network issues in between, and we have a special session today. We have to use sufficient time for that. What we'll do small changes. The evaluation of speech 1 and speech 2 go. The counter, grammarian, and timer report no need to be done now. It can be posted later in the group. And also from my side, the award ceremony also will be doing the posting online. Okay, we'll be posting in the group. We'll eliminate those two so that we have sufficient time. We can start the education session on time. Okay.
Fantastic. Yeah, I appreciate your decision. Great, wonderful. So quickly, we have first speaker's report. Toastmaster Rajat.
Yes, sir. Good evening, Toastmasters and guests. Especially Toastmaster Rohan, our today's speaker. Dale Carnegie once said, "Speakers who talk about life who talk about what life has taught them never fail to keep the attention of their listeners." What our today's speaker Toastmaster Rohan did was grasp our attention by his personalized story. He motivated us to go for entrepreneurship. I observed that Toastmaster Rohan started with a quote. That is a very good way to grasp the attention of the audience. And he maintained that attention of the audience through his personalized story. He told us about the acronym startup. And at the end, he finished his speech with a conclusion about how startup life helps people grow and also messaged us that he would help us if anyone is interested to go into startup or entrepreneurship. As there are good points, there are always scope for improvement. So I believe Toastmaster Rohan today was a bit. I observed that he could have used gestures much more better. Physical gestures are very important to have an impact on the audience. He was having few hand movements, but they were below the camera lens. So if next time he could improve and keep his hand movements much higher to par level with the camera lens, it may give confidence to the listeners that what the speaker is trying to say is true, and it will impact in a much better way. I observed that the voice was a bit monotonous. So I believe Toastmaster Rohan can include voice modulation. But overall, his voice was very clear. His message was very clear. And I also believe that he could improve his speech by audience engagement. He could have started his speech with a question, or in between somewhere along his speech, he could have asked questions related to entrepreneurship. Like, does somebody know what is entrepreneurship? Is anyone interested to be an entrepreneur? In that way, he could have grasped the attention and delivered it much more impactful. So moving ahead, overall a well-prepared, well-constructed speech with quality content, with a personalized story, with a message to take up entrepreneurship. A wonderful speech indeed, Toastmaster Rohan. I personally enjoyed your speech. All the best for your future projects. That's it from my end. Over to you, General Evaluator.
Thank you, Toastmaster Rajat, for the well-covered evaluation. I appreciate your point of audience involvement by asking question. It's a good point which you have made. Coming back to the speaker, Rohan, very good speech. And I appreciate the acronym what you gave up, the startup. It was very, very well done. It's how audience can remember your speech better through acronyms. And your speech value, in the end, you told that you're available as a mentor. If anybody wants to get mentored in startup, that's something you give up to the audience for listening to your speech. So it's a very good small point, but it's a great point that you brought up in the end. I appreciate that. So overall, a very good speech. Thank you so much. Going to the second speaker, Dr. Achrekar. His speech evaluator is myself, Toastmaster Manish. Hello, Dr. Achrekar. A wonderful speech, and you really gave us some nerves in the beginning when you showed the pics of you operating. It was difficult for us to believe that the same person speaking in the camera and the same person also, working with a knife. It took some time to absorb that. So I just loved your the way you structured your speech, point by point, and briefly you structured very, very well. I love your use of the 4 P's: perceive, plan, prepare, and perform. And you brought the complete speech in those 4 points. That shows that you put a lot of efforts in structuring your speech, which is a very, very important part of public speaking. And you also spoke about the obstacles like the mindset, which is the biggest obstacle to achieve something. So you covered that point as well. And you also told the benefits of change. And I really appreciate your quote in the end. That was really the highlighting part. And putting a name at the end of the quote is something really great. And everybody would love to do that actually. So change is the rule of life, and putting change into action is the art of life. Quoted by Dr. Achrekar. That was very well done. And overall, a great speech. And a small point for improvement. You could have linked your speech to your project, that is dynamic leadership. So every speech that you give in your particular pathway, you have to link to your pathway, that is dynamic leadership or whichever path you are giving. So maybe you could have just brought up how leaders need to embrace change and why accepting change is the most important quality of a leader. Maybe you could have brought that. I could have given a message to the audience in the end, which is that one change which you are not bringing in your life or which is stopping you. Go and change it and have a new life. With that message, you could have just brought in the end. You could have given a good finishing to your speech. But overall, a wonderful speech, and I loved the blueprint that you gave. Very well structured, fantastic. Thank you so much for the wonderful speech. And that brings the end of the evaluation. And I quickly pass on to the Toastmaster of the day for the further proceedings. Back to Priyanka, the drummer queen.
Thank you, General Evaluator DTM Manisha. Thank you, Rajat, for a detailed evaluation. I would pass on the screen to the president, but before that, I would just like to say to everyone, please look around you. There are any number of stories which tell you that fate does not make things easy, but it's possible. I leave you all with this short message. And from my side, for the last time, give this gesture of respect each one for attending this meeting and being present for it. I thank you from the bottom of my heart. Here's me signing off, the drum master of the day, or the TMOD. Thank you. Over to you, President sir.
Thank you very much, Toastmaster of the day, Priyanka. You did a great job. I also take this opportunity to thank General Evaluator, Distinguished Toastmaster Manish, and also today's table topic master, Pooja. You all did a great job. Congratulations. Now we move to the next segment of this program today. That is the second segment, which we are all eagerly waiting. And I also take this opportunity to say good evening and welcome to all the guests who have just joined. I am really happy to see the numbers are swelling, 46, and still we are counting. I welcome you all. Welcome to the DET Toastmasters online session and today's wonderful education session from the distinguished Toastmaster Kevin Makeley, all the way coming from England. Dear friends, today's theme for the education session is evaluate to accelerate. Evaluate to accelerate. How evaluating others will make you a better person. How evaluating others will make you a better person. This is very unique. The moment when I saw this, the first time when I heard about this subject, I started feeling proud that we are conducting this session with such a great theme. And you know, sometimes we think just giving a feedback, we give a feedback and forget about it. But now the distinguished Toastmaster Gavin is bringing in such a wonderful way that the giving feedback can make us a great speaker. This is really nice. We are very honored and privileged. And also, dear Toastmasters, I'm very sure, like me, you all also want to know more about today's speaker. To do that, now I am requesting our own very own DET minted distinguished Toastmaster. He is the jewel of our club, and he is none other than distinguished Toastmaster Manish. Dear Manish, I request you to introduce today's speaker of the education session. Thank you.
Thank you, President Sidhu. It's an absolute honor to introduce my friend Gavin Mackell. Gavin Mackell is a member of 2 clubs on the south coast of England and has been a Toastmaster since 2003, almost 17 long years. He's a professional speaker and a speech coach and has published a book, The Presenter's Edge, which is also available on Amazon. His passion is helping as many people as possible to discover the value of developing their speaking and leadership skill. And that is the reason he's here today to develop more and more better speakers through his extensive experience of 17 long years in Toastmaster. And with these few words, and without further delay, let me just hand over the floor to DTM Gavin Mackell. Can we have a big round of applause?
Thank you. Thank you very much, fellow Toastmasters. It is indeed a great pleasure and an honour to visit with your club today and to be part of what has been a really exciting meeting. I've been very impressed with the structure and the organisation, the quality of the speeches, and the quality of the evaluations as well. And I've been scribbling notes throughout, so I'll be taking away some ideas to share that with my local clubs as well. I'm just going to start the presentation a moment, so I'll just give me a second to share my screen. Oops, hang on a second. Oh. Sorry about that. I'll try it again. What's happened? Oh, there it is. Can you see my screen okay? Excellent. Yeah, so I chose this theme because it's something that's very close to my heart. I've been a Toastmaster a long time, and as I have grown through my Toastmasters career, it became clear to me that in Toastmasters we tend to put most of our focus on the speaking element of the preparing speeches and delivering the speeches, and whilst the evaluations are there as part of the program, sometimes they're not given a top billing, top priority. They're sometimes seen as maybe a necessary evil. It's something we've got to do, but what's the benefit? Because I just want to speak again. And so tonight, what I want to do is shine the spotlight on the evaluation side of Toastmasters, and hopefully convince you that not only does it bring value to the speaker who you're evaluating, it actually gives a huge amount of value to you. But more of that later. I'd like to make it as interactive as possible, so there's 2 or 3 times where I might ask for your comments. When I do that, if you could type them into the chat, then I can see them and respond to them. So, moving on. I thought I'd just pose a question at the beginning is, why do we give so many evaluations in Toastmasters? Because, you know, everything gets evaluated in Toastmasters, and sometimes it almost becomes, certainly in our clubs, a bit of a joke. It's like, if it moves, we evaluate it. So I just want to pose the question and see if anybody would like to share in the chat. Give us a reason, just one reason why you think we give so many evaluations in Toastmasters. Yeah, absolutely. An evaluation is a performance. So it's one of those cunning ways which Toastmasters brings in extra speaking opportunities, particularly for newer members, that you can come in. You might be not ready to give your first speech yet, but if you give an evaluation, you're giving a mini speech. You're actually giving almost a mini, not quite an impromptu speech, but a sort of, you don't have much time to prepare, to organize your thoughts and deliver it. Great. It helps with active listening. Yes, absolutely. Because to be a good evaluator, you have to be really paying attention to your speaker. You have to observe their body language. You have to listen to their vocal variety and their qualities. You have to think about the content and the message and the structure, and then process that to make some recommendations. Yeah, the evaluators show us a mirror. That is a really great comment, because what we see in other people, and particularly the things we either love or hate, is often a reflection of our own habits or our prejudices. I remember many years ago running a feedback session at a leadership conference, and we did an exercise. We were lined up facing each other, and we had to give each other feedback. But the way we had to do that was we had to give the person in front of us feedback, and then we had to imagine a mirror and turn that mirror back on ourselves and say, what does the feedback I've given you say about me? And that was a real eye-opener for me at that time. I hadn't thought of it in that way before. So that is a fantastic observation. I love that from Pramod. And finally, we're reaching the audience. Yes, we're reaching the audience from a different point of view. Exactly. Because one of my passions is that the most important person in the room at a Toastmasters meeting or in any presentation isn't the speaker, it's the audience. Because if you're a speaker trying to influence or educate or entertain an audience, you've got to put yourself in the audience's head. You've got to think about where are they coming from, what are their challenges, what are their fears, what are their hopes, what are their expectations, and then create and craft and deliver a speech or presentation that addresses those issues and hopefully moves the audience on from one thing to another. And the final one I'm going to take before I move on is that we learn from others' mistakes. And that is absolutely true. By noticing what doesn't work in other people's speeches, and just that process of analysing what worked, what didn't work, we're learning. And sometimes that learning is unconscious. You know, we're not thinking about it, we're focusing on that evaluation, but actually our brain is processing those things, going, oh, when they did that, I felt scared or upset. When they suddenly smiled, they'd been looking very serious and suddenly they smiled, and suddenly it was like the sun coming out and I felt much more comfortable with the speaker. You're learning, maybe I need to smile a little bit more. So evaluation is really important. But I wonder sometimes, people are often, I don't know about your club, but in our clubs, quite a few people, particularly new members, are reluctant to start evaluating. So, you know, what is it that stops evaluating? Again, if you'd like to put a suggestion or comment in the chat with that, but I'll start you off with the most common one I hear, which is, I haven't got enough experience. You know, I'm a new Toastmaster and I've heard some fantastic experienced Toastmasters speaking. I don't have enough experience to be able to comment or to judge them or to evaluate them. And my argument to you would be, if you've got 2 ears, eyes, you can hear that speaker, you can see that speaker, and you've got opinions, you've got feelings, you're a human being, you are qualified to give an evaluation. You may not be able to give as detailed, as forensic an evaluation as somebody with more experience, but your evaluation, no matter how new you are to Toastmasters, is really important. It's very valuable. And often I've heard some really great observations from new members because they've picked up on something, maybe a speaker's habit that other people in the club are familiar with, and so he just does that. We don't draw attention to that. Then somebody new comes in and says it, and you think, oh my God, I've fallen into that habit and I didn't realize it. So that's a really great one. What else have we got in the fear? We've got fear of failure. Yeah, absolutely. Oh my God, what if I make a mess of it? What if I don't give a good evaluation to the speaker? What will that be like? Well, again, I would argue that an evaluation, like any speech in Toastmasters, it's not a test. It's not a pass-fail. It's an experience. As long as you do your best, you cannot fail. All you can do is learn from that experience. And if it goes really well, fantastic. And you get some great feedback afterwards. If it doesn't go so well, then ask for support, ask for encouragement as to what you should do differently. And I'll share with you some of my top tips in a little while. I see there's a question there. Yeah, lack of confidence, I think we've covered. The fear of being misunderstood. Yeah. I guess for me, that sense of maybe saying something, meaning, you know, what communication, we say something because we have a meaning and we want to transmit that. But one of the biggest challenges in communication is the fact that sometimes our audience don't understand us in the same way as we intended when we spoke. My favorite quotation about public speaking comes from the English playwright George Bernard Shaw, who said that the most dangerous thing about communication is the illusion that it has taken place. So sometimes people misunderstand us. And of course, when that happens, it's so easy to point the finger at the other person and say, it's their fault, they weren't listening properly. But actually, did we communicate it clearly? Did we think about the language? Did we think about the tone? And of course, there's a learning in that. If you do make a mistake or you do get it wrong or you are misunderstood, if you can explore that and find out why, then you know not to or what to do so that you don't that doesn't happen next time around. And I'm just going to finish there with, am I capable of evaluation? Yeah, that's that self-doubt, isn't it? Am I good enough? And all I can tell you is that, yes, you are. As I said, if you can see, you can hear, and you've got an opinion, you're qualified to be an evaluator. And the more you evaluate and the more you listen to other people evaluating, the better you get. You know, on Pathways, we have the educational modules that you can learn more about the theory, but I would argue that Toastmasters is a learning by doing organization, and we learn by trying things out in a safe space, seeing what works, seeing what doesn't work, and continually developing. So fear of failure, thinking you're not good enough, fear of making a mistake, not being qualified, these are all common beliefs in our heads, but you need to have the faith in yourself that your point of view is worth hearing and that can provide assistance and help for the speaker. So what makes a great evaluation? What goes into being to delivering a great evaluation? Well, to me, I think that as Toastmasters, the model has always been there are two key components. There are commendations and recommendations. And I remember being running a workshop one time, and I explained that the way I tended to give feedback in my workshops was that the majority of the feedback I give would be highlighting what the person was doing well. But I would also say a little bit about the things they weren't doing so well. But whenever when I wanted to give them a recommendation, I wouldn't just criticize them and say, well, you spoke too quickly. I would suggest some ways to modify their speaking so that they didn't do that. And one of the students said, but you will tell me what I'm doing wrong, won't you? And I said, well, just supposing I did, and this was the end of the session, what do you think I would tell you if I told you what you were doing wrong? And she said, well, you'll tell me that I speak too fast. You'll probably tell me that I sort of dance around the floor a little bit and jitter, and that I say a lot. And I said to her, well, it sounds like you know that already. So how will me repeating that help you? Wouldn't you rather hear what you could do to stop doing that or to improve? And she paused and went, oh, I never thought about it that way. So I think that balance between commendation and recommendation is really important. I've been in lots of clubs, and I know that people say, oh, some evaluators are too soft, they're too positive, and they're not critical enough, and vice versa. But you've got to do the best for your that you feel comfortable with and what you think will do best for the person you're evaluating. But in my world, the benefits of positive aspects of evaluation are as important, if not more important, than the critical recommendations. And the reason I say that is because in my experience, the best way to help someone change is to draw their attention to the things that they're starting to do well and encourage them to do more of it. I think there's a quote from an English philosopher who worked in America called Gregory, said, change is happening all around us, and it's our job to identify positive change and magnify it. And I think that's what an evaluator can do. They can identify maybe that somebody is starting to use a bit more vocal variety at certain points of their speech. And by highlighting that and saying that when you suddenly started to get more animated, or you give us a bit more variety in your voice, suddenly I felt more engaged with it, and I really believed what you were saying. They may not have done that all the time, but if they did that as part of the speech, you shine a spotlight on that piece, I guarantee you they'll remember that, possibly more than somebody saying, yes, but you did say 47 times in your speech. which happened to me on my first ever table topic session. And I still remember it. I'm still traumatized by it to this day. So we've got to get a balance between those commendations and the recommendations. And one way we can do that is through the structure of our evaluations. Now, I don't know about how you're taught or in your workshops here, but there are lots of, if you go on to Google, there are lots of different formulas or structures for evaluations. I'm going to talk about three of them today, three simple structures that I think are actually, although they're simple, they're very powerful. The first one is the sort of first one I ever came across in Toastmasters, which was CRC, or commend, recommend, commend. It's the feedback sandwich, if you like. It's about starting with something positive, then going on to a recommendation of an improvement point, and then finishing with a positive commendation at the end. You know, that's the essence of a good evaluation. The other models that I'm going to talk about are really refinements on that form. But starting positively gives the speaker encouragement, particularly when they're new and nervous. They don't want to be shot down in flames right at the beginning. They want to feel they've done something right, because they're probably beating themselves up in their heads anyway. Isn't that true? We're all often very, very critical of ourselves. That little voice in our head. Oh, you didn't do this. You should have done this. Oh, I missed a bit out of my speech. Oh, I meant to do that. Oh, I forgot to change the slide. Whatever it might be. We're always very critical. So for somebody to actually say to us, here's what you did well. And I loved the way you grabbed us at the beginning with that quote, which really got my mind thinking, gosh, what's that going to be about? People get a good feeling, and that starts the whole process of changing our self-belief, turning us from nervous, unself-confident people into confident communicators. The second model, I'll spend a little bit more time, is one we use in my own club at home. There are various myths as to who invented this formula. I'm not sure. I think it was a guest came to us one meeting, but it doesn't matter where it came from. It's a really interesting formula, and it's a really practical formula. It's called the 3-2-1 formula, and basically it's a variation on the commend, recommend, commend, because the first thing is start with 3 positives about the speaker. So 3 things I really liked about your speech were. And you could vary that. You could maybe comment 1 thing maybe about the structure, 1 thing about their vocal variety, and 1 thing about their delivery. Or you could give 3 things all from the same kind of category. It depends obviously on the speech and what made its impact on you. But that guarantees that you'll start with a positive, encouraging opening to your evaluation. The second thing is that the number 2 stands for 2 recommendations or 2 suggestions for improvement. Now, what I like about this is just having that structure in your head. You're ticking it off. I have to make a recommendation. I have to make at least 1 recommendation, but maybe even 2. So it's encouraging you to start looking out for those little things that stand out for you. And that is often the hardest part when we start evaluating. I mean, I remember my first evaluations, and I've seen it with lots and lots of other Toastmasters when they come in. You hear a really good speaker speaking, and you stand up to give your evaluation, and you kind of go, well, wow, that was an amazing speech. It was, I just loved it. And I can't think of any recommendations at all because it was just superb. It's harder to find, it's for many people anyway, it's hard to find those recommendation points, or people are embarrassed to, oh, can I really, he's a DTM or whatever, can I really criticize him because he said quite a lot, or he mispronounced a word, or he spoke too fast? Yes, you can, absolutely. It's just your opinion. We always encourage our evaluators to start their evaluation with, this is my opinion. because it's not gospel. It's not written in stone. It's, you know, you can feel free to disagree with it. It's just my opinion. So 3 things you really liked, 2 recommendations, 2 things you could change, and one, the final thing, the one is one thing I'm going to take away from this speech. So it could be a learning point, it could be a quote, it could be something from the content, or it could be, you know, that just how you used the stage area, the speaking area, to differentiate different aspects of the speech. Again, it's whatever comes to you is the thing that you put there at the last. But again, that guarantees that you end with a positive. So that's the 3-2-1 formula. The third one I was going to talk about just is a variation on this, which is saw, heard, and felt. A friend of mine uses this very effectively. And what I like about this formula is it focuses on what your observations, both what did you see and what did you hear from the speaker. So what you saw could be in facial expression, it could be body language, it could be the way they moved around and used the stage, it could be the way they used their gestures for emphasis. It's all the visual things. The heard is obviously about the content and the language, their choice of vocabulary, their use of different volumes or tones, modulation, even the use of pauses. And then the felt bit, I think, is really because it's then taking those observations and saying, how did that affect me? What emotions, what feelings did that generate in me as the evaluator? And I think that can be really powerful for a speaker because it takes those, if you like, behavioral things and actually demonstrates to the speaker that actually those behaviors, the way when you did that had an effect on the evaluator, had an effect on your audience. And I think, again, it brings that back to that connection between the speaker and the audience. Because at the end of the day, how you make them feel, what they take away, what they hear, is going to influence their next steps, whether it's a sales presentation and you want them to buy something, whether it's an educational presentation and you want them to change the way they do something at work or to use a new system. So the saw, heard, felt is a really powerful one. And I think you know, by able to take some of the things you saw and heard and explain what that effect that had on you, really powerful tool. So I hope those 3 models might be useful to you to take away. Afterwards, if you want to contact me, I'd love to hear of any other models that you use because I'm always learning as well. So I want to now just jump in very briefly and think about what might be what are the specific things we could comment on in an evaluation. Well, I think you can divide it into 3 things, 3 areas, 3 general areas that I call the presentation triangle, which are content, the messages in the speech, the stories that are told, the knowledge that is presented, the structure of the speech, the way that speech is organized, that content is organized, and the order it's presented. And finally, the delivery. Now, I don't know about you, but I think every good speech is a balance between all of those 3 things. And I've seen people who have great content, but the structure or the delivery or both of those is not very good. And as a result, the content doesn't even get through to the brains of the audience. Likewise, I can have somebody who's got great content, great delivery, but the structure isn't there. So it seems to jump around from place to place to place to place, and your brain is working to try and, well, what's the link between this and that and that and that? Oh. And being human beings, I think we're naturally lazy. And if it's too hard work for us, our brain just says, oh, I'll think about something easier like lunch or what I'm doing at home tonight, or what I'm going to watch on TV, or what my next speech is about. So having that right blend of content, structure, and delivery is really important. So I'll just share with you some do's and don'ts on this from my personal opinions. One of the things, in terms of the content of the speech when you're evaluating, I'm not a great fan of repeating large chunks of the speech back. I'm sure you've been in the situation where you've heard an inexperienced evaluator basically retell the presentation from the speaker without really commenting on it. They're just saying, "Oh, the comments, the speaker said this, and then they said this, and then they said this." And I don't know about you, but in my head, I'm usually thinking, "Yes, you know, I was in the room there too. I could hear it myself. You don't need to repeat it for me." You're wasting valuable time repeating back content. The only time I would suggest you repeat back content is if it's maybe a specific quotation that you thought was particularly effective, or a specific phrase that you thought was very good. But please don't give us back large chunks of content. And don't spend too much time on the content, because really you know there are two other areas that are probably from a Toastmasters point of view more important. So what I suggest the do's are, in terms of content, keep them quite high level. Was the content engaging? Was it relevant? One of my big drivers is the content relevant? If I can't see that or hear that the content is relevant to me early in the speech, I'm likely to switch off. So being able to give somebody feedback on was the content relevant to the audience is a really useful thing to do. And was the choice of the language appropriate in terms of the language they use, the vocabulary and so on. But what we too tend to spend more time on is structure and content. And as I said, by structure, I mean the sequencing and the organization of the messages in the speech. Oops. Hang on, sorry, my slide is wrong here. Excuse me. Yes, that's okay. I'll go back. Sorry about that. Ignore that first one on there. It's wrong. Look at the do's comments. So I'm talking about how do the ideas flow from one to another. Is there a logical structure and sequence? Does it make sense? Aristotle, who is that wrote the book about rhetoric thousands of years ago, he talked about three key elements of a successful speech, being ethos, which is the credibility of the speaker, the ethics, pathos, which is the emotional connection, and which is the logical flow of the speech. So does the speech flow well? How were the transitions handled? Was it abrupt? Was it sort of jerky that he just went from one thing to another thing to another thing, and you suddenly went, "Oh, I thought we were still on this," and it's jumped. So how did the speaker transition? And was the opening engaging? Did it grab your attention? And was there a strong conclusion? Obviously, delivery is the bit we could probably spend the most time on, because there are obviously the things like the body language, the vocal variety, the vocal tone, the movement, the gestures, the structure, the facial expressions. There's a long list of those. So my tips would be, try and be as specific as possible. Don't be vague about it. I hear quite a lot of people saying things like, "Well, I really liked your body language." Yeah, well, there's a lot of things going on in our body language. Which bits of them did you like? You know, if I was a Martian who'd never heard the term body language, you need to explain it to me. What do you mean by body language? Drill down and give us some specifics. So for instance, you know, a vague expression might be, "Well, the speaker showed good body language." Doesn't really tell us or the speaker very much. What is good body language? Be specific. So for instance, or you could say something like, "I loved the way the speaker used bold, strong gestures to emphasize their main points." That's a clear, specific recommendation. And it can also be demonstrated. So you're not only saying it, you're pointing it out visually as well. The speaker varied their volume from quiet to intimate, quiet and intimate to loud and emphatic. That's a great way of demonstrating vocal variety, and you can demonstrate that too. So in conclusion, my top tips for evaluation are: evaluate often, evaluate as often as you can, take every opportunity to evaluate and to listen to other evaluators, but there's no substitute for evaluating yourself. And that includes entering the evaluation contests. It's a great way to practice. Even if you think you've not got a chance, you never know. Be encouraging. As we said, you support people and point out what they're doing well as what they need to improve. Be supportive. Encourage them. And obviously recognize that depending on the level the speaker is speaking at, you know, if it's a more experienced speaker, you can probably be a little bit harsher, a little bit more detailed in your feedback, a little bit more critical than if it is a new inexperienced member who hasn't got the confidence yet. Be specific. As I said, try and give specific recommendations, specific behaviors. Be selective. Demonstrate your recommendation. I hear lots of people who say things, you know, like, well, you should use more vocal variety because vocal variety is really important. And the speaker actually isn't using vocal variety themselves. If you don't know what vocal variety is, you may not know when the speaker says that. But if you say, for instance, in that bit where you were telling the story, you could have really brought your voice down quietly and drawn us all in. Or when there was that shocking moment, you could raise your voice, demonstrate your recommendations, vary your vocabulary. One of my pet hates is evaluators who always say things like, well, that was great. You know, it was great. It was really great. It was really, really great. It was very good. It was great. And they just use 2 or 3 words to say something was good. But, you know, language has a huge range of words. It was fantastic. It was excellent. It was memorable. It was powerful. It was engaging. Think about broadening the language that you can use for your evaluations. And you can get lists of words to use to do that. And finally, include the audience. What I mean by that is I think as an evaluator, being able to say, rather, there's a temptation sometimes to just speak to the speaker. You know, and if I happen to be looking at Manish on the screen here, and if I was evaluating Manish, I might have been saying, well, I really enjoyed your speech, Manish, and I'm saying Manish and you and Manish. And it's just, it almost creates a personal conversation between me and Manish, and the rest of the audience can feel left out. But if you change that language and say, well, what I noticed Manish doing was this and that, and Manish did a great job of doing this, and Manish could, one thing I could suggest to Manish is that he does something different, then you're speaking to the whole audience, and they're learning, observing, and they're being part of the evaluation too. And my last recommendation is, as an evaluator, you need to ask for feedback as well. You may get evaluation from the general evaluator, which is fantastic. But if you don't, or they don't have the time, then ask other colleagues that you trust to give you an evaluation on your evaluation. That way you can improve. So that brings my talk to an end. I hope it's been useful for you. I hope it's stimulated some thoughts. I hope it's reminded you of